Greetings and welcome to the 2022 Jane Addams Peace Association Children's Book Awards. I'm Angela Medina, the Executive Director of the Jane Addams Peace Association, and I'm delighted to be with you here today. The Jane Addams Peace Association's mission is to deepen the understanding of peace and justice for children and their adults through reflection, dialogue, and social action. We envision a future where people actively work to dismantle injustices and build a more peaceful, equitable world. Knowledge is power. Our esteemed Children's Book Selection Committee members have chosen one winner and two honor books in both the Books for Older Children category and Books for Younger Children category to help educators, librarians, and caregivers have challenging conversations about what children are observing in the world around them. This year, the authors and illustrators truly inspire, captivate, and empower their readers through their stories. Each book has a powerful message that we cannot forget the history of so many, or fail to acknowledge the struggles some of our children face when seen as different. Members of the selection committee will introduce each of the honored books, followed by the book's creators. For the last 15 minutes, we will have a live Q&A session. We are delighted that so many of you could join us for today's virtual ceremony. As some of you may know, the Peace Association supports the Books in Their Hands program, for which we raise funds to donate today's award-winning books and past winners to schools and libraries across the country. If you'd like to be a part of this important work, please consider making a donation. Jane Addams Peace Association is honored to partner with the Hull House as co-sponsor of today's event. The Hull House in Chicago was founded by Jane Addams in 1889. Thank you all for joining us today to celebrate our honored books. Now please help me welcome the Interim Executive Director of the Hull House, Ross Jordan.
My name is Ross Jordan. I'm the Interim Director and Curatorial Manager at Jane Addams Hull House Museum. We are so happy to be celebrating these authors today and championing the power of reading and writing to support social change. Hull House Museum is a living monument to Jane Addams, the progressive era social reformers, and their migrant neighbors who advocated for access to education, healthcare, creative expression in the marginalized communities on Chicago's West Side. Founded by Addams and Ellen Gates Starr in 1889, Hull House developed into a 13-building complex that include art galleries, a 300-seat theater, Chicago's first playground, and its first kindergarten. At its height, 10,000 residents per week participated in lectures and education classes for kids and adults, attended English language classes, or participated in bookbinding, ceramics, woodworking, and dozens of other art, sports, and music activities. Hull House even served as a local library station with a reading room where books could be picked up and returned. Jane Addams herself was always reading and encouraging those around her to read. She was also a prolific writer, completing 11 books that advocated for peace and democratic ideals. For this work, Addams became the first American woman awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931. Today, the Hull House Museum is happy to partner with Chicago Public Libraries, inspired by the Jane Addams Peace Association book selections. We are amplifying youth and community voices and sharing the legacy of Hull House with thousands of Chicagoans. I want to welcome Lori Frumpkin from Chicago Public Library's Children and Family Services.
Hello, my name is Lori Frumpkin, and I am a part of the Children's Services and Family Engagement Department of Chicago Public Library. I am so excited to be a part of this special event, and I am also thrilled that Chicago Public Library is joining with Jane Addams Hull House Museum and the Jane Addams Peace Association to work towards the joint mission of supporting and empowering communities. We understand the power of books to teach us important lessons, connect us with others, and inspire us to shape our own stories. Chicago Public Library has 81 branches in neighborhoods throughout the city, and in each of these communities, children and people of all ages use the library to read, learn, and engage with one another. The partnership inspired by the work of Jane Addams and the Hull House supports the library's mission to provide programs and resources that strengthen communities. This is especially true this summer as part of the Summer Learning Challenge. Chicago Public Library is proud to feature and share the important books selected by the Jane Addams Children's Book Award, and we are honored to learn from and work together to continue the legacy of Jane Addams.
Greetings, my name is Ruth Quiroa, and I am an Associate Professor of Literacy at National Louis University in Chicago, Illinois, and a member of the 2022 Jane Addams Children's Book Award Selection Committee. The committee is excited to announce that Runaway, The Daring Escape of Ona Judge, written by Ray Anthony Shepard and illustrated by Keith Mallett, is one of two 2022 Jane Addams Children's Book Award honor titles for its younger reader category. This title is a stunningly illustrated biographical picture book with lyrical call and response text. Keith Mallett's rich paintings incorporate fabric and collage to depict the reality of life for Ona Judge, one of the people enslaved by George Washington. They present a stark contrast to Ray Anthony Shepard's powerful narratives and use vignettes to describe Ona's privilege to be given the position of house slave for such a rich, politically powerful family, each of which concludes with the repeated, ironic question, "Why you run, Ona Judge?" Yet Ona's guarded, stoic, even disgusted postures towards experience of continuous micro and macroaggressions answer this question. The strength, hope, and dignity in Ona's gaze following her self-emancipation will haunt readers long after the story is read. Thank you, Ray Anthony Shepard and Keith Mallett, for the deep thought and careful attention to detail that so obviously went into the creation of this evocative description of Ona Judge's story of injustice and escape. Your book will promote crucial dialogue, reflection, and new understandings for young readers for years to come. It is such a pleasure to present the Jane Addams Book Award honor to author Ray Anthony Shepard and illustrator Keith Mallett. Thank you.
My name is Ray Anthony Shepard, and I'm the author of Runaway, The Daring Escape of Ona Judge. It is a picture book biography of Ona Judge, who was enslaved property of Martha Washington. And this story takes place on the day when she's 23 years old and decides to escape, or run away, if you like. And it asks the question, if you have the best job a slave can possibly have, that is being the personal maid of the great lady of America, why would you run away? And so throughout the story, it raises the question, why did you run away, Ona Judge? Ona Judge, why did you run? Ona, after 23 years of being enslaved, left the president's house in Philadelphia and made her way to Portsmouth, New Hampshire. She chose the hardscrabble life of a fugitive rather than remain an enslaved property of the most important couple in America. I discovered this story when I was visiting my youngest daughter, who was studying in Philadelphia, and we made a visit to the president's house, the site of the president's house. And there, with Independence Hall, the Liberty Bell, and standing there, the site of the president's house, and there was this story of Ona Judge, and it just resonated with me, and I decided that I wanted to tell it for young readers, and I have done so in this biography. This story illustrates the moral conflict in the founding of the Republic, a nation dedicated to equality but built on the sweat of enslaved workers. You know, as a writer, you spend months working on a story that rattles around in your mind, and you're never sure that there's an audience for it. And so I'm grateful to the Jane Addams Peace Association for finding this book worthy of the honor of being an honor book. Very much appreciated. I would like to especially thank Keith Mallett, who's the illustrator. His stunning illustrations give a visual interpretation of Ona's story. And a special thanks to Grace Kendall, my editor at Farrar, Straus and Gerard, for her confidence in this story and the way that I wanted to tell it. And again, my sincere thanks to the Jane Addams the selection committee for this honor. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Keith Mallett. I would like to thank the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Committee for honoring Runaway, the daring escape of Ona Judge, with this prestigious award. I would also like to thank the publisher, Farrar, Straus and Giroux, for inviting me to participate in the making of the book. A very special thanks to Grace Kendall and Aram Kim for their immeasurable help and guidance in bringing Ona's remarkable story to life. And of course, I would like to thank the author, Ray Anthony Shepard, for creating such a deeply moving work, one in which he so vividly captures what it truly means to be free. There was a great deal of research involved in visually crafting Ona's journey. All the costumes, the dresses, hats, women's shoes, and men's attire needed to historically reflect the colonial era. Even small details like plates, cups, and cutlery had to be accurately depicted. But it was through Ona's emotions that I most wanted to connect with the reader. I wanted Ona's sadness to be palpable. As the book progresses, the color palette grows deeper and darker until Ona, hiding in a basement with other escaped slaves, is literally ensconced in blackness. It is not until she is on a ship headed towards imminent freedom that the clouds part, the sun breaks through, and we can finally see Ona smile. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shanisha Clark, and I'm a member of the selection committee. I'm introducing the book Unspeakable, The Tulsa Race Massacre. Carol Boston Weatherford and Floyd Cooper teamed up to create an absolute treasure of a book, which remembers the horrors of one of the most violent race massacres in U.S. history. It occurred in the Greenwood area of Tulsa, Oklahoma. This vibrant community, also known as Black Wall Street, was utterly destroyed. The 100th anniversary of the event was in June 2021. Carol Boston Weatherford begins each section of the book with an allusion to fairy tales, using Once Upon a Time. Like fairy tales, this picture book is timely because it was produced in a time of social upheaval. Tensions between communities are rising. Unlike fairy tales, this is a true story. Unspeakable helps young readers learn about a difficult history. It delicately and purposefully tells about this event in a way that young readers will develop new questions and spark conversations about social justice. Floyd Cooper's illustrations are hauntingly beautiful and work in concert with Weatherford's words. His illustrations were created using oil and erasure. The cover of the book invites and dares young readers, teachers, librarians, and other caregivers not to look away. For every illustration, young readers are immersed more deeply into the book. They must slow down and soak in the nuances as they realize the destruction and the devastation of the massacre. Unspeakable, The Tulsa Race Massacre is a special book. It is a memorial to those who were lost during the massacre and a celebration of the gift that was Floyd Cooper. Carol Boston Weatherford is a masterful poet and author, and we honor the union of her words and Floyd Cooper's illustrations. And with that, it is my absolute pleasure to present to you a wonderful author and even better person, Carol Boston Weatherford.
Hi, I'm Carol Boston Weatherford, the author of Unspeakable, The Tulsa Race Massacre, which is illustrated by the late Floyd Cooper. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Floyd today, sadly. I am so grateful for the Jane Addams Children's Literature Honor and for the support of Learner Books, my editor, Carol Hens, art director, Darnielle Carnito, and my agent, Ruben Pfeffer. If Unspeakable seems an unlikely topic for children, this picture book seemed an unlikely title to be celebrated, especially during a time of book bans. Indeed, it recalls the worst incident of racial violence in U.S. history. Tulsa's Greenwood neighborhood was home to Black Wall Street, The community boasted barbershops, beauty salons, 2 newspapers, 2 movie theaters, over 20 churches, dozens of restaurants and grocery stores, 15 Black doctors, 6 privately owned planes, and the largest Black-owned hotel in the entire nation. But in 1921, a white mob destroyed the nation's wealthiest Black community, leaving more than 300 dead and 8,000 homeless. For more than 7 decades, that's 7 decades, the Tulsa Race Massacre of May 1921 was all but erased from history. When the government finally mounted an investigation in 1996, most survivors of the massacre were long gone. Their voices were never heard, their stories never told, and their losses never measured. My research for Unspeakable took a forensic approach because Tulsa of May 1921 was indeed a crime scene. Through words and pictures, Floyd and I recreate Black Wall Street's heyday and mourn the losses and lasting impact. At its heart, Unspeakable is a lamentation to that place and a testament to the African Americans who built Black Wall Street and to those who lived through or perished in the Tulsa Race Massacre. The Tulsa Race Massacre is no mere memory. Hate violence is not a thing of the past. I hope this honor means that more children will read the book and choose hope over hate. I am blessed that Floyd and I became collaborators, first on Becoming Billie Holiday, a verse novel that I believe I was born to write. However, I believe that Unspeakable, our last dance, so to speak, may be Floyd's crowning achievement, his most important work. When I was drafting Unspeakable, the Tulsa Race Massacre, in fact, even before I drafted it, I asked Floyd to illustrate. He accepted right away via Facebook Messenger with a note that said, "You know I'm from Tulsa. I must do this." Of course, that's exactly why I thought of him. Because of Floyd's roots, I knew that he would bring passion to the difficult subject. Together, we strove to give voice to the victims and the survivors whose stories were never told. I feel so blessed to have worked with Floyd on this project, which is among the last that he saw published during his lifetime. I heard that Floyd holed himself up in the studio for hours working on Unspeakable. I did not know, though, until reading Floyd's note for the back matter, that his own grandfather survived the 1921 massacre and had shared his recollections with Floyd when he was a boy. Floyd poured Grandpa Williams' memories into this work. The resulting art is nothing short of masterful, if you might allow me to say that myself. The Tulsa Race Massacre may well be the truth that Floyd Cooper was meant to bring to light, and Unspeakable, the legacy that he was born to leave us all. I'd like to close with the words of a survivor of the Race Massacre. Viola Fletcher, at 107, testified before Congress about the Tulsa Race Massacre during a hearing about reparations. She was, at 107, the oldest living survivor of the massacre. She was just 7 years old when the massacre occurred. So I'm going to quote Mother Viola Fletcher, as she is known. "I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see Black men being shot, Black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see Black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot." And Unspeakable ensures that none of us will forget. Thank you very much for this honor and for ensuring that this book will get into the hands of more young readers. Hi, my name is Jongsun Wee. I am a member of the 2022 Jane Addams Children's Book Award Selection Committee. The committee is excited to announce that Strong as Fire, Fierce as Flame, written by Spriya Kalkar, is one of 2 honor books for the older reader category this year. We found this book to be a compelling historical fiction narrative that introduces unequal gender roles and challenges faced by girls in India during the 1850s. It introduces readers to a historical time when girls were treated as family possessions rather than children who needed to be nurtured and educated. Its protagonist, 12-year-old Mira, faces down many obstacles, rising to meet each challenge and to realize her own strength. Thank you and congratulations. I present you the author, Spriya Kalkar.
Hi everyone, I'm so thrilled to be here today with all of you. I have to start by thanking the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Committee for all their work in judging the awards this year. This year's award winners and honor books are incredible, and I'm so honored that Strong as Fire, Fierce as Flame is in the company of books by authors and illustrators I admire so much. When I was growing up, I never got to see myself in an American book, let alone on TV, in a movie, or in a commercial. So I mainly wrote stories about kids with yellow Crayola hair because I didn't think my story mattered. One day in elementary school, our teacher read The Secret Garden. I sat up taller, recognizing Indian characters in a book for the first time ever, and feeling seen. But then I quickly realized the Indian characters weren't thought of as equals. They were just in the background, serving the main character, even when the story took place in their land. I slouched in my seat, feeling embarrassed and ashamed. As an adult, looking back on those experiences, I wanted to write a book that challenged who we center and who we erase in so-called classics and what we learn in social studies and history classes. I wanted to show colonialism not as the story we are often presented of brave explorers discovering new lands and helping the people there, but as the brutal practice it really was that costed people their lives and their land, and whose effects we still see today around the world. I hope I've accomplished that with this book, but it couldn't have been done without the work of countless people, including my agent, Kathleen Rushall at the Andrea Brown Literary Agency, my editor, Stacy Whitman, and the entire team at 2 Books and Lee & Low Books. Thank you again to the Jane Addams Peace Association and the committee for this incredible honor and for showing kids of all backgrounds that their stories do matter.
Hola, hello. I am Josie Bustos Pelayo, teacher, adjunct professor, and current chair of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Selection Committee. Res Dogs by Joseph Bruchac is a timely story that starts at the beginning of the COVID pandemic. The main character, Marion, is visiting her grandparents on the reservation when the lockdown begins and she cannot return home to her parents in Boston. Res Dogs was not only loved by our committee, but also my 6th graders who saw this book as both a mirror and a window. For example, when Marion has a class project that requires her to share her story, she states that she didn't want to make people feel bad, but she also wanted to be honest. This sparked a deep dialogue about the importance of learning a true history from multiple perspectives. Mr. Bruchac intertwines important but difficult Native American thematic issues through his masterful writing. From the current technology inequities that many students face during the COVID-19 pandemic school shutdowns, to the historical atrocities that Native American communities have had to face, such as forced sterilization, boarding schools, colonization, distrust of the government, and sovereignty. I am delighted to present Joseph Bruchac with the Honor Award in the Older Children's Book category for Res Dogs.
Kwai kwai nito bak. Hello, my friends, which is how we say it in the Abenaki language. I'm Joseph Bruchac, and I'm very honored to be one of the people honored by the Jane Addams Association. This award means a great deal to me because peace and social justice has been one of my main aims in life ever since I can remember. And the story that I wrote, called Res Dogs, is a novel that takes place during the pandemic. The main character is a young Wabanaki woman in New England who finds herself caught on her reservation, unable to go home to her family, who live in Boston. She was visiting her grandparents, and now she's in quarantine. And during the course of the story, a dog shows up and adopts her and the family. And the story really is about our history, our culture, the things that have happened to Indigenous people in the Northeast, but told in the form of story. For her grandmother and grandfather are storytellers, and as Malian, my main character, goes through the experience of living through the pandemic, which is something we've all lived through, I think that you'll see things that we all have in common. And that idea of commonality among human beings is very important to me. By the way, one quick note about this book, I wrote it using the new oral tradition, because every morning I would walk my dog with my phone and I would dictate the book chapter by chapter into the phone and then go back later and transcribe it on my computer. So it is really within the oral tradition. And I am an Abenaki storyteller and writer and draw on the traditions I've learned from my elders and friends for more than half a century in writing this book. And one of the most important things we do is to tell people peace. Peace is very important. In Abenaki, we'd say, Olekami genoka, which means make peace, or may peace come to you. And so let me close with that, and with the sound, which I always found very peaceful, the sound of the native flute. This is a song which is called Little Children, or Tutuas, and it's the idea of our children are supposed to be protected by the elders, just like the little pine trees are protected by the big trees that shade and protect them. Thank you for listening to me, my friends. May you walk in peace.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie Marshall Arnold, and I am the publisher liaison for the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Committee. I am so excited to share our 2022 Jane Addams Children's Picture Book Award winner, Shirley Chisholm Dared, by Alicia Williams and April Harrison, published by Ann Schwartz Books. This book focuses on an outspoken little girl who never stopped asking questions, stood her ground, pushed the boundaries of what was proper, and grew up to be the trailblazing Shirley Chisholm. The final page ends with this daring, rebellious, persistent troublemaker is the first African-American woman elected to Congress. Acrylic and mixed media collage art is striking throughout every page of this award-winning title, from the strong, beautiful portrait of Shirley on the cover, through her round-cheeked childhood and elegant fashion style punctuated by her posture as she moved through life, becoming a preschool teacher, a school director, a New York State Assemblywoman, and a Congresswoman. This book will make you wonder, where would we be without individuals like Shirley Chisholm, who dared to challenge the status quo and speak up against the injustices in the world, who fought so hard to be heard and seen. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Alicia Williams and April Harrison, author and illustrator of this amazing title.
Hi, I'm the author of Shirley Chisholm Dared, the story of the first Black woman in Congress. My name is Alicia D. Williams, and this is illustrated by April Harrison. I'm so excited to be an author of Shirley Chisholm because Shirley Chisholm represents so much strength, empathy, and she wants to be remembered of all things that she was a catalyst for change. And the way I approach this story for young readers is that Shirley was called a troublemaker, bossy, rebellious, persistent, and too daring. And as an educator, I've been around in classrooms where little people who asked way too many questions like Shirley was demonized or were called troublemakers or bossy. And all of these negative labels seem to be confining to them. And through Shirley, I wanted our young readers to look at themselves or see a lens of being bossy, being asking way too many questions, being a troublemaker, being persistent, rebellious are amazing traits. So I love for them to flip that narrative around and say, Shirley Chisholm, with those traits, she was a catalyst for change. She watched out for the underdog and she dared to be herself. And I am so glad that Shirley Chisholm Dare is out in the world for you all to enjoy. Receiving the Jane Addams Peace Association Award means a lot because everything that this award represents, the mission, the motto of giving children a platform to have dialogues and reflections, to be change makers, to have empathy, to have respect. All of these are the same traits that Shirley Chisholm had for herself and for her readers and for the people that she represented in the political arena. And what is even more important to me, that this award exists because it amplifies stories where we are encouraging children to be themselves, to see the world in a different way and how they can have a place and have a voice in it. So I thank you, everyone on the committee who voted for this book and voted for all the books that represent Jane Addams, and for the publisher for choosing this book to bring out in the world, and my agent as well for believing in me in the story, and the illustrator April Harrison for bringing it to life. And I thank you, dear reader, for reading this book and sharing it with the world and your family and friends.
Hello, my name is April Harrison, illustrator of Shirley Chisholm Dared. Shirley Chisholm Dared was my first fiction book, so it presented a different set of challenges, mainly learning about this phenomenal woman. I confess I knew very little about her. As the illustrator, it was important for me to create a bossy, fearless, headstrong, and strong-willed little girl right out the gate. Character traits which would carry her through her congressional seat all the way up to her run for the President of the United States of America. Shirley also had an eye for fashion. So to establish her unique style, I created dress patterns by using custom stamps and collage papers. I wanted her wardrobe to stand out from the crowd and catch the eye by using bold patterns and textures. I was a little disappointed that I couldn't put glasses on little Shirley. But doing my research, I was advised that little Shirley didn't begin wearing glasses until her late teens or early 20s. So next on the glasses. In each book that I illustrate, I add little treasures, which means something special to me. So I took liberty in showcasing my dad's red and white Chevy in the backdrop of one of the spreads, along with the mural of the tree lady. Quick look, Chevy Tree Lady mural. You can look it up for yourself as well. Her name was Hattie Carthen. As for the cover, it was our intention to show Shirley as the determined, extraordinary, unapologetic, daring, unbought, and unbossed pathmaker that she was. To the amazing writer Alicia D. Williams, everyone at Ann Swartz Books, my agent Regina Brooks of Serendipity Inc., my photographer Eli Warren, and Simone from the Shirley Chisholm Foundation. But most of all, I'd like to thank the Jane Addams Peace Association's Award Committee for accepting the assignment and selecting Shirley Chisholm Dared as the 2022 winner in the Books for Young Children category. It couldn't have been a very easy task. There's so many deserving books out there to choose from. Your recognition is truly appreciated. I thank you, I thank you, I thank you.
Hello, my name is Janice Mateo Toledo, and I'm the chair of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award. I want to thank all of my fellow committee members for their hard work and dedication this year. Today, I'm honored to present the winner of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award in the category for older readers, to How to Find What You're Not Looking For by Vera Hiranandani. This historical fiction novel is set in the years after the Loving versus Virginia Supreme Court ruling and references important historical events of the time, including the Vietnam War, Walter Cronkite's nightly news broadcasts, The Summer of Love, and music by Elvis Presley and the Beatles. The story is told from the perspective of Ariel, the sixth grade protagonist. At school, Ariel struggles with dysgraphia and is bullied because she's Jewish. Her sister Leah runs away with Raj, a recently immigrated Indian man, but her family rejects the marriage because Raj is not Jewish. Ariel questions behaviors she deems contradictory and expresses her thoughts through poetry. Throughout the novel, Ariel bravely asks the adults in her world difficult questions that compel them to interrogate their actions and beliefs, demonstrating that activism is not just publicly marching in the streets, but also confronting the everyday acts of racism and anti-Semitism that we often witness within our own families and communities. And now I present Vera Hiranandani.
First, I want to send heaps of gratitude to all the members of the Jane Addams Children's Book Award Selection Committee for doing this important work, especially during another challenging year. I'm humbled to be in the company of this stunning list of fellow honorees. I also want to give a special shout out to Namrata Tripathi at Kokila and Penguin Young Readers, and Sarah Crow at Pippin Properties for always supporting my work. How to Find What You're Not Looking For is a deeply personal book for me. It's inspired by my own parents' marriage in 1968. This book idea actually started from a conversation I had with my editor a few years ago about the 1967 Loving versus Virginia ruling, which banned all laws against interracial marriage in the U.S. I don't remember why we were talking about it, but it started me thinking more about my parents and what they experienced when they chose to get married. My mother is Jewish, born in the U.S., and my father is originally from India. I thought about what would have happened if my parents had chosen to marry before the Loving ruling in another state like Virginia. My mother's parents didn't support their engagement at first. My father's parents weren't living at the time, but he was questioned by his siblings. My parents decided to marry anyway and celebrated their 53rd wedding anniversary this year. So I did what I usually do when I have deep thoughts like this. I wrote a book. I didn't want to tell my parents' story exactly, and I also wanted to think more about my own Jewish identity. So I created Ariel, an 11-year-old Jewish girl growing up in Connecticut in 1967, whose older sister falls in love with an Indian college student. In the book, when the couple elopes against their family's wishes, it changes Ariel and the way she connects to the larger world. Over the course of the novel, Ariel experiences anti-Semitism from a bully in school. She also sees how her parents and others react to her sister's fiancé Raj and his Indian background. She thinks about what her sister Leah and Raj are facing and what it means for her to be part of a marginalized community experiencing prejudice but also having white privilege. She sees the violence around her with the Vietnam War and Dr. King's assassination and racial protests across the country and wonders how peace is attained, both with the conflicts in her own family and in her country. She thinks about how she should stand up against the anti-Semitism she experiences, stand up for Leah and Raj, and tries to understand why her parents don't approve of their marriage. She ultimately learns that peace doesn't always come peacefully. Sometimes there is pain and conflict on the road to a more peaceful world, but it's always worth fighting for. On the Jane Addams website, it says, "We envision a future where people actively work to dismantle injustices and build a more peaceful, equitable world." I try to put that spirit in my work because that's the future I envision too. Lately, every day, that dream seems harder to attain. But I will never stop striving with my stories, and that's why I'm so honored by this recognition. Thank you again, and wishing peace for all.